Good evening, good evening, and welcome to another edition of the New Black Leadership Coalition, here live in the great studios of Intellectual Radio. My brother, my friend, Brother Earl Winfrey, a great producer. Glad to see you, Brother Earl. It is wonderful. It's a wonderful day, wonderful time. I am so thankful to Almighty God for blessing us, you all, the new black leadership, activists, community organizers, and etc. We thank God for blessing all of us with another day of life to try to get it together, another opportunity to get it right. And I am so thankful for our ancestors and would always try to always remember to invoke their spirit, invoke their names, etc., because there's so many tall giants, black men and women, that stood before us and took a bold stand when it was not popular, unpopular, and we'll never ever forget them. And we know we are standing on some tall shoulders. So, don't get it twisted. Many people quote many of these great giants, and but we tend to just put them in the background and not really follow their wisdom, their recipes, their ingredients, the strategies that they have eloquently laid down for us. So again, I am very, very thankful to all of the mentors, all of the people that have influenced us and have given us their teachings, the lessons, all of the mentoring. So I am very, very thankful again to Almighty God. And so today, I'm sitting here with a good brother, a friend. Uh, I'm going to say he's controversial for a lot of reasons, but it's good to have a brother like um, I call him minister. He's a minister, but he's an activist and a political operative. You know what that means, Minister Bamani Obadeli. Known him for a very long time, and it's great to have a brother like you on the show, especially around this political climate. Very, very hostile to some degree and divided political climate in our community. And I know you have a lot to say about politics, a lot to say about social activism and economic empowerment and et cetera. So welcome to the show, brother Obadeli. Great to have you on, man. How you doing?
I'm great, Brother Greg, and thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we got a lot to say. I just want to
Yeah.
get a quick commentary out, and I think this commentary will connect with what I believe we need to talk about. But you could talk about some of the things you want to talk about. But I wrote down some things because I didn't want to forget this. Typically, I mean, this just came to me. I was writing this in the car, and I said, "What do you do when you sit in those rooms with Alderman Berg, Mike Madigan, J.B. Pritzker, Bruce Rauner, John Cullington, Rahm Emanuel? Do you speak with the voice and the spirit of Almighty God strongly, effectively, passionately, strategically, wisely, with a uncompromising position of strength on behalf of poor black people, disenfranchised, discriminated against, red flag, red line, blackball, locked out, overlooked?" As I listen to and read some of your comments via social media, radio shows, or in person, it's crystal clear to me that many of you go along to get along because you're either afraid, mentally, spiritually dead, suffering from post traumatic slave syndrome, or just believe in a spook God or mystery God. The point is, my folks and people, family, brothers and sisters, all that I say And I say all of that to say that when you look at where we are right now, and people tend to take sides, like what pony do you have in the race? And you look at who gets what. And I'm setting this conversation up because I've been in the room with you, Brother Obadeli.
Yeah.
I've been in the room with you. I've had conversations with you way before any of the pop-up folks right now.
Yeah.
And maybe they were around and I just wasn't aware of their work out here. But I know you for over 20 years, more than 20 years, way more than 20 years. And I'm looking at 50 years since our beloved brother, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I'm looking at where we are. That was back in 1968. You as a political operative, as a community organizer, etc., looking at, Black people that go into the room with a list of people, some of them that I name and some of them that I did name. What position? Because I promised people, I told some folks, they was like, oh, maybe I should call in the show. You're going to have Obadeli on.
Yeah.
Brian Mullins. He was like, oh, boy.
Oh, Brian.
I think you should call in if you have some questions. 708-223-8953.
Yeah.
I say it slowly. 708-223-8953. But share this. If you just getting on, share this. Because I want the conversation to connect with, because I'm going to read some of this great article that this sister wrote in the Chicago Tribune regarding our beloved brother, Dr. King, and showing with data that we have gone backwards as Black people, even though we have way more elected officials.
Yeah.
But economically,
yeah,
the conditions socially for Black people have worsened. So,
it's
Obadeli,
yeah,
you go into those rooms. I sat with you.
Yes.
And I watched you. So some people don't know you, brother, when you was working for the governor then, Blagojevich.
Correct.
You were in there on behalf of Black people to say not so much what's in it for Black people, no slogans, but real talk. We want a piece more than just a few crumbs of the action.
And I will say, Greg, and I've never been one to kind of toot my own horn, but let me just back up and reference the article that you just read. And Dr. King, put it all on the line. He laid his life down, to see our people progress, right? To see prosperity, to see a change in our community. And I will say this, individuals have succeeded. We have individual accomplishments. Of course, we have more Black elected officials today than we've ever had since Dr. King's assassination and murder. But the masses, the conditions of the masses of our people have not gotten any better. And a lot of that is because of a self-serving type of attitude that many of these elected officials that we have taken, and individualism, rugged individualism that takes place in our community every day. And as you referenced the Blagojevich administration, I will say this to you. I believe that those of us that were around the governor then, and I still call him a governor because as far as I'm concerned, he was the best governor that Black people have had in this state, maybe next to George Ryan. And the only reason why I'll say George Ryan, I'll get to that, with some of the progressive things he did with the Illinois First Project that included when they passed a $10 billion bond deal to improve roads and conditions in our community. And many of our people participated in the economic logistics of that Illinois First Project. Emil Jones was the majority leader, and they made sure that money came back to the Black community. Every legislator, by the way, for 4 years, had up, every senator had up $1 million, $1 million directly that they can bring back to their district to spread around for programs, for job training. Every state rep had $500,000. But then they went further than that, the bonding capacity, the construction company. So I would say from that perspective, under George Ryan with the Illinois First Project, was the largest economic development program that this state has had in a long time. That they did a great job. You had Joe Banks as assistant secretary of IDOT at that time. So the point that I'm making is I'm going to get to a point to say this, that fast forwarding to the Blagojevich administration, we had 14 agency directors and agency directors who were committed to delivering goods and services, hiring, contracting in the African American community. Of course, I would say my whole role of being there, outside of, and I won't be dismissive of the situation that I got myself caught up in. Much of what I brought on myself, I would say that. But the fact remains, the good that we did by opening up state government to people who's never had an opportunity to benefit from doing business with the state, contracting with the state, but making sure that resources got back to the state. I will say here today, I don't care who takes credit for it, that I handpicked Carol Adams to be the secretary of DHS. She would be honest, she would tell you that. I met her at a Kwanzaa event in February of 2002, and I said, "What are you doing, Dr. Adams?" She says, "Oh, I'm at the center and I'm doing much of nothing." I said, "How would you like to be the secretary of Human Services?" I think you would be great.
Just like that.
Just like that. And I said, "Send me your resume." And I took it in there to the governor. And I said, "Here's the pick for secretary of DHS. She's got the cultural competency. She has relationships in the community. And she's got great management skills."
So looking at where you are now,
Yeah.
and let me just say this for the records, don't worry about what happened. Everybody make mistakes, man. Please.
I mean,
it wouldn't be done, but I always say this: to all of the hypocrites out there.
Well, because we have a lot of them.
It would not be one of us alive if God was to punish. Even in the Quran, it says it. The Bible, so ain't none of us without
but
sin
I don't,
and all that. But
so I would say
this, you said
right. No, but I like to be. I like to deal with it from the perspective. It's nothing that I'm neither proud of or ashamed of. I would just tell you that in the process of being in government and being a Black person and fighting for Black people as I did, and I really did. You don't know the days and the times that I got into argument with quote unquote liberal white people about helping the Black community.
I can imagine.
It's just so I had a target on my back, but I didn't make it better. I could have did things a little different. I really wanted to get out. I never was a person, by the way, let me just say this to you, who really wanted to go into government. I'd been an entrepreneur, organizer, and a political. I love politics, but I also knew how to make money and being a business person. So as a kid, even growing up, I had my own businesses, chartered businesses that I had, right? And so growing up in the projects, I knew that you was going to either sell drugs or you're going to go to college and get a job and support your family. That's just it, coming out of Robert Taylor. So I just choose a different path. I created hustles. I created small businesses. I had candy. I had all the vending machines in 4 high schools from 1988 to 92. When I graduated high school, I had $75,000. Yeah, you see, Charles Ramsey, who was then a police sergeant, I shined shoes at the police station. They had a paper route. Charles Ramsey, who's now a consultant to major police departments, was the head of D.C. Police, the head of Philadelphia. Daley passed over him for Chicago superintendent for several other reasons. But the point of the matter, Charles Ramsey was a mentor of mine for a very long time, taught me how to buy stocks. I owned Walmart stock at 19. So the point that I'm saying to you is this. I know people may think they know who I am. They really don't. They really don't have no clue about
And that's why
about.
And I'm glad you're doing this because people should get to know a person that have sacrificed. But see, look, here's the deal, bro. We're in a very dangerous and serious time right
I agree.
now. And all hands should be on deck. And one of the things that really don't puzzle me, it just really bothers me that we are so divisive. Now I do kick some people, but I do call some people out.
Yeah.
It's not a secret. But if you really have an issue with that, then you could show up. You can go on this show, and I'm sure Brother Harold Davis will let you on the Butt Naked Truth. I'll meet you down there at that station or here. The bottom line is we at a very, very, very crossroad as far as Black people are concerned. Not because we're electing the mayor or we're electing the governor or etc., but the division in our community, bro, and the games that certain people are playing. Now, I'm not gonna get totally into this whole Democrat, Republican kind of thing, but as a new Black leader, as a leader, as someone that really say that they want to deliver some goods and service to Black people, how do you get to deliver them if you get in these rooms and you don't fight for Black people to get not just a few crumbs, but to get almost all of it?
Right. So there's two things, Brother Greg. I think that we have to deal with. I think people have to be very honest. So we have to have honest brokers, right? People have to be honest about their intentions, right? And one thing I will say, just going back to me, and I'll move forward. You will never, no one, they may not like me because of the position I took, but no one will say they don't know where I stand, right?
What position?
Any position.
But give me one position you have taken that people didn't like.
Well, the supporting, I'm going to just be honest with you. I got beat up supporting Blagojevich over Roland Burrs when Roland Burrs ran for governor. But people still mad at me over that. But they don't talk about how Roland Burrs and Fred LeBert made $2 million off of the IDOT contract. But they don't talk about that.
But Negroes ain't voted for Doc Walls. Negroes ain't voted for. Negroes ain't gonna vote for Willie Wilson. Negroes ain't. Who else ran that?
But no, let's move it forward. I got beat up for it recently. And I'm really someone who really near and dear to me. A couple people just stopped speaking to me altogether. And when I supported Rahm Emanuel for re-election. And so very unpopular, was criticized, put on flyers, called sellout, Uncle Tom. One guy came up to me. In fact, I was out with my son in the grocery store, came up to me and says, you know what? I liked you better when you was Paris Thompson. You know, but my point is this, people really took that election to heart with our emotions. See, this is the problem with Black people. We're very emotional. We don't think methodically, right? We don't think methodically. And that becomes the issue. So my deal, number one, I'm interested in Black power, not Black people being elected. So let me be clear about that.
Did they get mad at Barack Obama as a whole? Barack Obama twice.
Well, you wouldn't have Rahm Emanuel if it wasn't for Barack Obama.
But we pick and choose. It's a horse in the race. So we need to. That's why I said when we get in these rooms.
Yeah.
When we get in these rooms, are we politically mature, or are we just afraid to really want to take control, say, of the city or the government? Are we afraid?
Well,
I mean, I know we are astute, politically astute. Are we afraid of power?
In some cases, I think some of our people very well might be. I would say this to you. Moving forward, I think what we need to be figuring out is how do we rebuild the Black political infrastructure? It's giving me we got a call, I guess. How do we move forward in building the Black political infrastructure? That becomes the real issue.
Yeah, and when I hear that word infrastructure, blah blah, I want you to break that down. But I'm gonna go to the caller.
All right.
Because how long is it going to take for this infrastructure with this unity that we have? Let me go to the caller. Hello, caller. How you doing?
All right, how you doing? It's Brian Muller.
Oh boy.
Yeah, Brian.
Oh boy, I knew you were about to call in. Boy, I called your name out. Oh, there, Brian. It's like, go ahead, Brian. How you doing, man?
Pretty good, pretty good. I was just, trying to just following the script of what you all were talking about. Just wanted to chime in with a couple points. I don't even know if y'all got to them yet, but I think you go in there. Here you talking about political infrastructure and some of the things that take place in black politics. I'll give my 2 cents if it's the right timing. I called in a little early, but
no, it's good. Come on.
I think the biggest problem is we have not built any infrastructure. But we also can't count on the exact same black individuals to build that infrastructure because they have no sense of urgency, or why would we trust them to build it in the first place? So I think that's one of the biggest keys. It's going to be built from people who have not been in positions, that have not been in those rooms that you're talking about. I've been in those rooms myself. I've seen people go in those rooms. Yeah. I see people go in those rooms. I see people come out, they cut their deals, they line their own pockets, or they put their friends, or they advocate for individuals that are not trying to build a collective of black power. So when you look at every election cycle, I know Bomani mentioned Rahm Emanuel's election. We look at this last cycle with JB. It's tens of millions of dollars spent, right?
Yeah.
And nobody can point to $1 of infrastructure that anybody that worked for JB. Let's use JB for example. He's not the only one, but I'm going to.
Well, go ahead and use him because I'm glad you brought that up. So good. Go ahead. Go ahead.
There's not $1 of infrastructure or anything that anybody can point to that was a victory for the black community. Now you got a few individuals that made a lot of money, right? Walking around with checks on Facebook. I know people that got a couple $100,000 checks. You know what I mean? What is that? What does that mean for black?
Well,
at the end of the day, zero. Absolutely zero. So how long do we believe that these exact same people go in these rooms are advocating black? I mean, factually, and we can see it on the city level, the state level, the county level, it does not happen. It doesn't happen. Zero. We can't name one black elected official that collectively people are going to say, you know what, I'm confident that when they in that room, when they at that table, when they in the housing committees, when they in city council, or they down, that they're fighting black. It's not one that I say personally, in my personal opinion, and I think I can get a lot of amens on that from other, that fight for black, right? So what happens is the same group of individuals. If you start out with the Democratic Party, the Cook County Young Democrats, that same structure, those same people, they get in positions, but who are they loyal to, right? They are loyal to Madigan, they're loyal to Rahm, they're loyal to Preckwinkle, they're not loyal to black, right? You mentioned construction, I'll get my Lorraine out real quick. You mentioned construction companies and people getting contracts and jobs. They donate back to the political Democratic establishment. They don't donate to black. They don't build infrastructure. They don't even give contracts to people that want to build a black political infrastructure. So I don't see any path to power with the same people as long as they only do the bidding of Madigan, Rahm, Obama, Daley, whoever we want to mention, who's at the top of the Democratic Party. The black caucuses at the state and the city do not fight black. They don't vote black. They raise their head and complain about, look at the airport contract, $8 billion. And you have an alderman or two that make some little yapping on the side, a little soundbite, a sentence in the newspaper, and it's over. Rahm don't give a crap about what you're talking about.
I disagree with you.
If there was a collective black unit, let's use a city council. You probably, and I might be off on the numbers. If I'm not mistaken, it's about collectively 800,000 black registered voters in Chicago, right? They are represented by 18 black aldermen. If those black aldermen got together and said, hey, we're not taking the conditions at CPS anymore. We're not going to have it. And you know what? I got 100,000 black voters standing behind me, Ron. We need this to change today. Then you know what would happen? It would change. But that's not what they do. They go around and they let Rahm do what he want to do in every single agency. Now, we know there are separate agencies, quote unquote. We can say the Park District is the one creating the library and the Obama Center, which is going to crush the south side of Chicago with the continued gentrification. We all know this. We know that the Greater Chatham Initiative, which Rod Sawyer's on board with, is going to take over the same thing in the Chatham area. We know all this is happening. but nobody stands up and does anything. And I'm going to end with this. But when we do try to run candidates, who crushes those candidates? The same Democratic Party, the same people, the same individuals. Monty, you one of them.
Yeah, okay.
It's difficult for me to comprehend how on one side we talk about Black empowerment, but then the same people are the ones that's not allowing democracy and not allowing Brian, the people on the ballot. They're not giving any chance to any other voices.
Brian,
I'm going to say that. I'm going to be quiet, or you want me to go keep going, right?
All right, Brian.
No, thank you, Brother Brian.
And listen, Brother Mullen, so, you and I, we get into it, and I appreciate your commentary, Brian, but I disagree with you. And your last statement is about the candidates that you run bad candidates. You run candidates who absolutely are out of touch with the reality of real voters. And so I believe the time has come. You're going to run people who don't even know how to read a precinct map, or you're running a candidate or support someone who is totally self-serving, who've had an opportunity to be a legislator at one time and was only there to serve themselves. So if you're going to run young candidates and run progressive candidates, they need to, number one, understand government, understand the science of government and how government operates and works. And then organize, get troops, get petitions done, have a message that is clear and concise instead of attack, and come with these with angry rants and attacking the opponents or attacking the establishment. Run your race, raise your money, have the appropriate management and appropriate message, and I think they would be fine. But short of that, and I'm not on here to give anybody any free political strategy, because I am also a political consultant. And I think that's the other thing that gets mixed up here. I am a political consultant. So at the end of the day, I will work for a candidate. Most candidates I work for or have taken on, I actually believe in them. And I'll go back to the whole deal with Rahm, right? I was willing to give Rahm a benefit of the doubt in the runoff. When it came down between Rahm and Chewy. And I'm going to be very frank with you. The Chewy people, and I've said this over and over again, right after Chewy forced to run off with Rahm Emanuel, they fired all the Black people that worked in the office. And I dare Clem Belloff to challenge me on that. And Stephanie Gatlin knows this, to make a decision. Because if you don't change dance partners in the middle of the ball, I am very particular about loyalty when it comes down to candidates and when it comes down to elected officials. I'm going to tell you this. I believe in loyalty 100%. I believe you dance with the partner who brought you to the dance. I don't think you need to change ship. So I monitored the situation. So I made a conscious decision. But then in the midst of that, there were conversations that were had that Rahm made about Black empowerment and some things that he was going to do. And most of those things he did. I didn't know about the Laquan McDonald incident. I will be frank and honest with you. That didn't come to the surface. It was scuttlebutt out there about it. There was talk about this egregious act, this egregious murder had taken place, but no one had seen a tape. No tape had surfaced. It was just a lot of speculation and innuendo for the most part, right? So it comes out. The way the situation was handled, and even to this day, is enough to say to me right now, in this primary coming up, there's no amount of money, if offered by the Emanuel campaign, for me to work for them. I will say that right now. But I will go back and say, on the record right now, if the race came between Rahm Emanuel and Gary McCarthy, I have to make a decision. If the race became between Rahm Emanuel and Paul Vallis, who I contend with Arnie Duncan destroyed the public school system, I have to make a decision then. And so, but right now in the primary, I can sit it out. I'll probably do what I did before. I voted for Willie Wilson, and it was a protest vote. The bottom line.
So let me ask you this, since you mentioned the protest votes, but I want you to go back to this infrastructure.
Yes.
And then there was something that Brian said that kind of connected to something that I said. And that is, when people get in these rooms, well, it don't make a difference who it is. Do we speak with the voice of manhood, womanhood strong to say that we're not in here just to, like you said, be self-serving to get a few crumbs. We want the majority of the power. Right. You get put out of the room, and you just mentioned this.
So here
whoever you bring to the dance, whoever you bring to the dance, you know, you stick with them. But if they on your toes, and if they're making you look bad, you might have to pull them to the side to make sure that they don't actually make you look too bad.
So, Greg, I would say to you and to all the listeners out there, I do think that there needs to be a meeting that somebody calls. We can't stop meeting enough, but with honest brokers, that number one, there needs to be an agenda and a Black agenda that we all can agree on that need to be taken to the table. Now, I can tell you from my years of government and other people, building the Black political infrastructure is real easy. It's real simple, by the way. If JB's the next governor, there's 7 Black agents. There's 7, I'm saying Black agents, but there's 7 agencies that if Black people were in control of them and would be fair, impartial, with putting resources in the Black community through those 7 agencies, with 7 Black agency directors, that's one part of it. The 18 Black assistant directorships, where you can put people in position where they can then deliver to our community the resources that we will need to help rebuild our community. So let's face it, let's stop playing games with each other too. I will say this to you. Black people, unfortunately, for all, as we just started out, 50 years later, we still, 65% of us depend on federal, state, county, local government for our survival, whether it's employment, whether it's direct services and goods. So we depend on the government to survive. So the reality is that we need government to survive, right? So that's one part of it. Secondly, when we talk about, Mullins talked about J.B. Pritzker and the individuals got paid. Well, if he didn't hire any Black consultants, the man spent in this election, some upwards of $63 million. And I'm just telling you right now, I know for a fact that African Americans got somewhere near $16 to $17 million.
Who are they?
So there were.
I'm gonna take this call, but I want you to say who they were, and I also want you to just talk a little bit about the money that they spent. Say J.B. Pritzker, because we could have bought a whole lot of damn farmland with that.
But let's do this. But it's easy to point out J.B. Pritzker, but Kennedy ran a campaign.
We could have bought farmland with all that money.
This ran a campaign. So my point to you is this: let's start being honest and upfront. You want to attack a man because you disagree with him, and at one point, Mullins was involved with the campaign indirectly doing some survey work. Well, he benefited financially from Pritzker.
And I think let's take this call.
So
we'll come back to that. That's pretty hot. Hello, caller. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well, Brother Shane. How are you? It's Willie Preston.
Willie Preston, my main man. What's up, Brother Willie?
Oh, I'm doing well, brother. How you doing, Brother Money?
Hey, Willie, how you doing, brother?
Thanks for calling in on the new Black leadership. A lot of people scared of us. You know that, don't you? You know why they scared, Willie?
And why's that?
Because Minister Mike set the tone and said everybody is welcome. We just want to bring everybody in the room and just have a meeting of the minds, something similar to what Brother Obadeli just said, so that we can just see where everybody is at. We know that we need an agenda, but we need more so to find out what's really in your heart and what's on your mind, because then we can purge out those who need some clinical psychology counseling. But go ahead, brother.
Well, now I just want to call and say how much I agree with Money in terms of calling a meeting to build an agenda. But you know, when as a candidate, I was a candidate for state rep. You know, one of the things that I encountered.
And congratulations too.
No, I appreciate it very much. What I encountered, however, is that there is no consistency on anything in terms of Black people inside this town and inside this state. You got folks that are, you know, which is good, which shows the evolution of Black folks. You got some people that are doing pretty well financially. You got a bunch of folks who are poor. you got some folks that are middle of the way and on the rise, but there's no other group that has such a dysfunction in terms of they cannot identify one thing that they all agree on. We can't do that. So I want to say that I called in to say, but Money is somebody who I respect and appreciate, and I watched him. I don't know him very well, but I watched him, and I think that as a young black man inside this town, I want to be involved going forward on that type of meeting. I'm going to be involved in that type of meeting, and I want to pledge my full support for building an agenda. And that right there will allow us to be able to determine who candidates will be in the future. But we have to agree on 1 to 3 things, in my judgment, in terms of economic agenda, where we want to be geographically inside Illinois. Because one of the worst things that I fear is that we are being spread out so much. A girl I went to high school with, she put a status up the other day, and she said, everybody, thanks for the prayers we made it safely to Montana, starting a new life. Montana, she's know nothing but Chicago. It's time for us to really get together and really determine why or if we're going to come together around this agenda to stay in this state.
And you make it legitimate.
Thank you, Brother Willie.
And thanks, Willie. But I'll say this, Brother Willie makes an interesting point. People are leaving. I think the Tribune did a story about a family leaving. Black people, white people, but more black folks are leaving Illinois. Why? There's 3 years of Bruce Rauner cutting social service programs, cutting jobs, I'm going back to this again. City government being tight and stringent because we have a federal government that's not sending resources down. It's just what it is. I'm saying to you, brother, that closing schools means closing restaurants, means teachers get laid off, black lawyers are unemployed. It is.
So what do you say?
These things are what I'm saying to you.
No, but I'm saying, what do you say to the critics? And I know they listening.
Yeah.
They say that the Democrats have been in control of not just downstate, but here in City Hall, and even when Barack was in, even though they kind of handcuffed him. But what do you say to those folks that say that Democrats strong like Michael Maddox and them have been in control?
But I would say
before Bruce Rauner, because Bruce Rauner have not always been around.
Well, but prior to the 3 years of Bruce Rauner, the unemployment rate in the black community wasn't what it was either. I will tell you that. Even though Pat Quinn, I did not necessarily care for him as a governor, things weren't as worse or as bad as they are now for black people in this state. I will say this, the failure of Barack Obama was the failure to pass a jobs bill, a capital bill. He allowed Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid to force him into this healthcare agenda, which I contend again, didn't do anything to help black people, even when it came down to the contract to do the outreach. A Hispanic firm got it. And this guy that runs around every morning talking about what's in it for the black people, he was a $275 an hour consultant on the contract. So I mean, let's be clear about this. The award came down with this healthcare agenda, and it went to a Hispanic firm to do the outreach and some parts of redetermination, right? And this colored boy who's on the radio now in the morning on the AM show, what's in it for black people? He should tell black people that he was making $275 an hour, while other black people who legitimately tried to get a contract.
Damn, that's how he bought that car. He got a nice car too, man.
Yeah, he got a lot of nice things, I guess. But
I don't care. It's a nice car.
My whole point is that, again, Gregory saying, and to Brian Mullis or anybody out there, my advocacy for black people didn't just start recently. I have a history of it. I'm not saying that I'm a perfect person, but and sometimes it's real thin line with trying to be a political consultant and being an activist, right? So those sometimes the two don't mix, right? But I would say to you, whenever I'm in a room and in a position to help black people, I do it. And there's not a black person, honestly, can say that I have ever mistreated them, have not advocated for them. Black folks get mad at me. I mean, I end up fighting with other black people about helping black people.
Well, I witnessed you do it because I hit that damn table so hard when we met with Miss
Marino.
Marino
and Brian Samuels.
And Brian Samuels.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, I'm not no damn whore. You remember that?
Yes.
I said, we don't want no crumbs. I said, we want what we supposed to get. So maybe you get put out the room when you speak this strong, but at the end of the day, I got to go back to what Willie Preston said.
Yes.
So the New Black Leadership Coalition, I just want people who are tuned in listening. We are going to have a quarterly round table. This is probably going to be one of the most important gatherings that you've ever been in. We're not coming in there to play this ego game. Trust me, you're going to get put out. If you cannot be disciplined enough, even though we have differences and all that other stuff, you got to be disciplined enough to come in, listen to the other person. Some of us want, it's like somebody in the hood want to be tough, but you don't take your butt down on Michigan Avenue. You don't go to Naperville with your little gangster stuff. So don't come to the meetings, even though we might have some differences. But this meeting that will be publicized, just stay tuned. Don't miss this meeting. If you claim to really love black folks, want to help black people, blah, 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 you gotta come, because we got some serious issues when it comes to this whole thing, not politically, but this ideology, these little bitty, small little differences that's keeping us in the position that we in.
I would just add, which is a fact. So, and I would tell black people this, but I think most of them know this. No one can get elected in this state without the black vote. No one. No one can get elected. So even as our numbers shrink, no mayor is going to get elected, no city treasurer, no city clerk, no Cook County commissioner, no governor. No one's getting elected in this state to a major statewide, countywide office without the black vote, right? And so I say all that to say this. If there are people running for office and they're spending money on a campaign, then black people should benefit from the economic largesse. And at what point do we move beyond black people who are political consultants being called hustlers or being respected?
But,
I'm going to say this to you.
But now, I love what you're saying right there. But do we have people who are in that little circle, in that little gathering, they get their bag and they gone? They talk black, they look black, but after all of it said and done and over with, they really not pained by the struggle and the suffering of black people.
I would say this to you again. For me is, do you use black printers? Do you put money into black banks? Campaign money. Now we only have one now. So I guess that's the new thing.
Which one is that? Illinois
Federal Savings. I mean, it's black. I mean, it's from the continent, but it's only black bank, which is a damn shame. With 800,000 black people or 700,000 people in the city. Do you, listen, so the small things. What do you buy your donuts? Do you go to Black Bakery and buy the donuts for the workers in the morning, the coffee? I mean, that helps. I look at the small, tangible things that I can do. Like every campaign that I was on, every chance I got, I went to a black baker. I mean, that's hundreds of dollars a week that I put in that bakery where he wouldn't get. I was working on campaigns all the way out south, but I came down to 47th in Michigan and bought donuts from Billy. I'm just giving you examples.
Yeah. Make the
switch.
The
brother that's a printer on 47th Street. If I couldn't give him large business, I give him small business. My point to you is there's another brother who has a printing company that does business by printing brochures and political literature, right? Then you go to black media. As painful as it got, I sent money to VON. Brought people that way.
Was it painful, brother?
Well, it was painful.
Why did they go to WBGX, the Butt Naked Truth?
Yeah, well, we can get back to that.
I'm just trying to figure out why.
No, because we're talking about black, and I'm not.
Okay.
And I respect.
But is that brothers, black?
Well, VON is black owned. I mean,
let me just tell you like this. So, but I got to say it like this before we get out there, so we make this clear for all black people that don't know. If you don't own your home, I know you say you're a homeowner, but the bank own your home. You pay a mortgage. I know you would claim it. You don't even own your car. They still own it because you paying a note. But I know.
Say this, and I'm only talking about the painful side of it because of the talk show hosts that are there outside of Cliff Kelly and Perry Small. Let me just say this to you, brother. Every opportunity, those of us who go into these rooms and at the table. So as a political consultant, if I got a client who has raised money and is courting the black vote, you need to hire black people. You need to hire black PR. You need to do a black mailing house. You need to have black printers. And when you buying lunches or you buying donuts and coffees and goods to feed workers or having events, you need to use black caterers. And you need to employ black bands. So I'm saying this to you that, and everyone that I work with, I ask them to do it, or if they leave it in my purview, I'm going to do it.
Did we ask any of these
I'm going to do it.
Did we ask them how to do that? Did they support reparation?
You know, I'm not certain about that, and I will say to you,
because if they don't support reparation, see the reason why repairing the black community.
Trump said he's thinking about doing it, but
I'm just saying if you don't support repairing the damage, because we redlined, we know everything. All those what is it, about 178 cranes up right now, construction
cranes,
and I see all in these different areas, black people not working.
I agree with you, but it goes back to the fundamental base of Brother Gregory. When you look at it, and he talked about the alderman and the $8 billion. I will tell you this. I know because of the work, and I'll call her out, the Alderman Dow. They're black.
I love her.
They're black folks. But it's up to the black people who are benefiting from her level of advocacy to step up and say how she's advocated for them. And that becomes a problem because a lot of people don't want to come out. They're black people. Now, let's be clear about this. And I'm going back to the individuals again. It's their responsibility as black businessmen and women who benefit from the advocacy from community people and the black elected officials to have their back and to go out to the community and say, yeah, because of their advocacy. And it's also their responsibility to hire people. So you got black construction companies that don't hire black workers.
Are they front?
Well, no, they got legitimate companies. They call up the union halls. What I'm saying to you is it's more complex than us just saying, let's put black people to work. And Minister Mike knows this. Who has the training? Who has the work ethic? All of those things have to be put into place. I mean, we're great demolition men. Now, let me just be honest with you. In this day and time, and much of it is not to our fault.
We're great tradesmen.
But we become great demolishers too. Black folks, we can tear up a whole lot of stuff. But what can we build at the end of the day?
You know what? But I say this, and it's really sad because we built this goddamn country.
Yeah.
And we know how to build. We know how to build, but unfortunately, it's like people who claim we got bad credit, but they know how we got it. So I'm saying that to say, we got 5 minutes? We got 5 minutes, and I want to give you the majority of because hey, bro, no, it's a great conversation because we got to get in the room, and all those folks who are Facebook advocates and Facebook activists and Facebook social service people, Facebook, everything. You better have your butt in the room.
The Facebook so revolutionaries. All they going to do is talk and take shots on Facebook, but they're not going to do any real work.
But at the end of the day, let's go back to the elected officials because the apathy in the black community is thick, is very thick. And we know with all of the money that was spent, look what came out to vote. And almost look who came out. Why? What was that?
24%. And I'll go a step further. And this is the point when I'm telling you, just like these children, a lot of these adults who are on Facebook and social media and Snapchat and every other social, just complaining and taking shots and criticizing and from the sidelines and won't get in the game. They're just like these children called the millennials or the woke folks, and all they do is walk around with their phone up, taking pictures of themselves, talking, bantering, but 3% of them came out to vote. 3%. All that marching, hollering and screaming, and only 3% of them came out to vote. My point is, it is typified by the level of the black activists in our community who do the same nonsense, man. They act like children. And so my saying to you is, and you're right, when we call the next meeting, come in a room, put your hands on the table, be honest about your feelings. I think, listen, we know this. What we do know today, Brother Greg, right now, this very hour, this moment, if black people unite, we're going to decide who's going to be the next governor. We're going to decide who's going to be the next mayor. If you look back at the numbers, Rahm Emanuel in that runoff, if it wasn't for the black vote, he doesn't win. Mm-hmm. So he's very clear. Now, I'm telling you, he's not going to have the same black political operatives that he had before with him, because a lot of people are disenchanted and they feel a certain type of way based upon a lot of his policies, right? So, but there's still a choice that has to be made, man. And so we have to make the best decision for our people at the end of the day. And that's all I'm saying. Boy. And I don't think, and I'm being very clear with you, there's not a black person that has come to the surface, rumored or not.
You got to do part 2, bro. You got too much gold.
That's ready to be made in city.
Hey, no, you got to do part 2. Now, Obadeli said something about come to this meeting, this round table, put your hands on the table, but put your wires too on the table. So if you're wearing wires, put them on the table too. We ain't stupid. But I got to say this too. For those folks who believe in doing for self, and you just gave up on this system, period, we're going to have a conversation about that too. Because I know some of y'all are like, damn this, that stuff ain't working. We got to do for self. We need farmland. We need to blah, blah, blah. You are absolutely right. But we need a balance. Because politics without economics is symbol without substance. But thank you, Brother Obadeli. You going to do part 2?
I'll do.
You got to come and do part 2. Mike, we got everybody scheduled next week.
All right.
Part 2. Bomani Obadeli next week. Part 2. This is hot. Y'all share this. Yeah. Share it with all of your friends. We got to hear. We got to flush this out. We got to get some unity. We got to get it together. Anyway, peace and love. Thank you, Brother Obadeli. And guess what? You ain't got the line. Tell them somebody else said it. You heard it. Straight from the heart in the mouth. Peace and love. Don't forget the Butt Naked Truth. Tomorrow, 2 to 4, Mr. Harold Davis. He will continue this. Peace.